Are you ready for a gripping tale of political drama, furious farmers, and a country brought to a standstill? Well, in today's video, we're uncovering how the Dutch government's controversial policies ignited a massive backlash from their own farmers, shaking the foundations of Dutch politics. The battle between the farmers and government started in 2019, the day when the Dutch government announced their plans to tackle the nitrogen crisis. The Dutch nitrogen crisis is an environmental and political issue that emerged in the Netherlands in recent years. It revolves around the high levels of nitrogen emissions produced in the country, primarily from the agricultural sector. The Netherlands has the second highest nitrogen balance, or surplus, in Europe. On average, European countries had 68 kilograms of nitrogen per hectare between 2010 and 2015. The Netherlands had an average gross nitrogen balance of more than 2 times as much. The crisis became a significant concern when the Dutch Council of State, the highest administrative court in the Netherlands, ruled in May 2019 that the country's existing approach to tackle nitrogen emissions was insufficient and violated European law. The main sources of nitrogen emissions in the Netherlands are agriculture, transport, and industry. The agriculture, specifically the animal husbandry, is responsible for approximately 40% of the country's nitrogen emissions. Nitrogen compounds, such as ammonia and nitrogen oxides, contribute to air, soil, and water pollution, affecting biodiversity, public health, and water quality. To address the nitrogen crisis, the Dutch government proposed a series of measures to reduce nitrogen emissions. One of the most controversial proposals involved reducing livestock numbers, particularly in the cattle and pig farming sectors. This would lead to the closure of a significant number of farms, sparking outrage amongst farmers who felt that their livelihoods and the country's agricultural heritage were under threat. In response to the government's proposals, farmers staged large-scale protests throughout the Netherlands. Angry farmers have protested across the country. Concerned about the future of their sector, farmers have blockaded infrastructure, dumped manure, rubbish, and asbestos on highways, and announced their discontent outside politicians' homes. In early August of 2022, the government sat down with several farmers' organizations to talk about how a reduction in nitrogen emissions could be achieved in a way that works for all parties. LTO Nederland, an agricultural organization, wants farmers to be able to participate in local initiatives for sustainability instead of facing top-down measures. However, Farmers Defense Force, the FDF, and the most prominent advocacy group in the protests declined to attend the talks. Spokesperson Jeroen van Maanen told newspaper AD that the organization does not believe that there is a nitrogen crisis. If nature in the Netherlands is already deteriorating, the question is to what extent of this is due to nitrogen. The outcry has received international attention, with former US President Donald Trump expressing support for Dutch farmers in a speech in Florida at the end of July. Trump said that climate change is a hoax and praised the Dutch farmers for courageously opposing the climate tyranny of the Dutch government. However, these talks and protests had not resulted in anything, as the Dutch government didn't back down on their plans. So the farmers decided to go another route: the rise of the political party BBB, Boer-Burger-Beweging. The Farmer Citizen Movement, or in Dutch Boer-Burger-Beweging, is an agrarian political party in the Netherlands. It's headquartered in Deventer, Overijssel. The current party leader is Caroline van der Plas, who founded it in 2019. In response to the widespread farmers' protests that had taken place earlier that month, on the 17th of October 2020, van der Plas was unanimously chosen as the party's leader. It won 1 seat at the 2021 general election. In the 2021 Dutch general election, the Farmer Citizen Movement focused its campaign on issues important to rural and agrarian voters, including pledges for a ministry of the countryside located at least 100 kilometers from The Hague, and a removal of the ban on neonicotinoids. The party called for a Right to Agriculture Act, which would allow for farmers to have more say on agricultural expansion matters. This was in response to local opposition to pig and goat farmers over public health and environmental and agricultural concerns. The BBB supports Dutch membership of the EU for trading purposes, but wants to reduce the power of the EU to the level of how the EEC was once intended, and opposes the EU becoming a federal superstate. The BBB also supports Dutch membership of NATO, and has called for providing Ukraine with F-16s. Caroline van der Plas has stated that the Party for the Animals and Wakker Dier are 2 of the BBB's biggest enemies, and that the BBB uses its social media presence to provide an alternative perspective. This political party intends to upset the status quo and bring justice to the farmers. The BBB party booked a major victory in the regional elections in March 2023. The BBB, I'm not getting tired of saying that at all, it's just a train from a bees. Beep, 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 beep. Anyways, the BBB won the most votes in every province across the country. In some northeastern provinces, they were absolutely dominant, winning more than 30% of the vote, while no other party came above 10%. This means that the BBB will end up with about 17 seats in the Senate, well ahead of Mark Rutte's VVD on just 10. Let's quickly explain how the Dutch election system works for the non-Dutch viewers. The Kingdom of the Netherlands has two chambers of parliament: the House of Representatives, which consists of 150 deputies elected directly through proportional representation system without an electoral threshold, and the Senate, which has 75 members elected indirectly by regional councils in the country's 12 provinces. Regional elections are important for several reasons. Number 1, influence on Senate composition. The outcome of regional elections directly influences the balance of power in the Senate, as regional council members elect the Senate members. The Senate's composition plays a significant role in the Dutch political landscape, as it can support or oppose government's legislative agendas. Number 2, legislative approval. In the Netherlands, both chambers of parliament, the House of Representatives and the Senate, need to approve legislation for it to become law. The Senate, therefore, has the power to block or amend legislation, making it a vital player in the legislative process. Number 3, a reflection of public opinion. Regional elections often serve as a barometer for public opinion on the national government's performance. As a result, regional elections may act as a wake-up call for the government if they lose ground or face strong opposition in these elections. It seems that the farmers are winning the war. But how will that shape the future for Mark Rutte, the current Prime Minister of the Netherlands, after suffering such a devastating blow? And what does it mean to the Netherlands? First of all, it is bad news for the government. With strong opposition blocs on either side of the government is going to have to struggle to pass any significant legislation at all. All in all, Mark Rutte is in a more vulnerable position than ever before. If the Rutte cabinet is unable to break the gridlock and its ability to govern effectively is jeopardized, we could see elections in the lower chamber, currently scheduled for 2025, brought forward. If this were to happen, it's hard to see Rutte, who's been Prime Minister for 12 years, winning another term. However, Dutch Prime Minister isn't called Teflon Mark for nothing. He's weathered his fair share of political crises in the past. Rutte seems to be able to navigate various challenging situations without them sticking to him or impacting his political standing. This resilience has allowed him to remain in power for an extended period, despite facing numerous obstacles and setbacks. But will he be able to weather this storm? Not only are the farmers extremely mad, there's the lingering housing crisis in the Netherlands. You can watch that video on the channel as well. We'll leave that link in the description. How I know, convenient, crazy, whoa. It's an uncertain time, but only time will tell whether these results mean the beginning of the end for Rutte. In conclusion, the Dutch nitrogen crisis has pitted the Dutch government against the farmers, leading to widespread protests and political turmoil. The government's attempts to address the issue have been met with resistance from farming communities, who believe that their livelihoods and their heritages. The emergence of the Farmer Citizen Movement, BBB, as a powerful political force has added another layer of complexity to the situation, disrupting the status quo and posing a challenge to the current government. As the BBB gains traction in regional elections, it remains to be seen whether the government will find a way to effectively address the nitrogen crisis while also preserving the interests of the agricultural sector. Meanwhile, the political future of Prime Minister Mark Rutte hangs in the balance as his ability to govern effectively is increasingly called into question. The Dutch nitrogen crisis serves as a reminder of the delicate interplay between environmental concerns, politics, and the importance of protecting vital industries and their communities. Thank you so much for watching the video. Please let us know your thoughts and all that good stuff in the comment section below. And until next time.